Hello, welcome to the GRE presentation during International Day. My name is Michelle Hampton, and I will be speaking with you today about both GRE tests, our test prep, and what we have available to help you succeed. We're going to focus on the test itself, what's involved in them, the structure. We're going to talk about the test prep, as I mentioned before, some test-taking strategies or tips, and then talk about the advantages of taking the GRE Revised General Test in pursuit of your higher education degree. The GRE testing program is actually comprised of two separate tests. The GRE Revised General Test is what most colleges or universities are going to ask you to take. In fact, that is the common used entrance exam. The GRE subject tests allow you, the test taker, the opportunity to show your specific knowledge in a designated topic area or major field of study. In this case, we offer 7 such tests, as you can see here. All the way from biochemistry, cell and molecular biology is one test, biology, chemistry, literature and English, mathematics, physics, and psychology. All of the subject tests and the GRE Revised General Test are offered in English. We also offer the opportunity for those students who register for the GRE to participate in an assessment. Actually, it's an evaluation called the ETS Personal Potential Index, or ETS PPI for short. It allows the folks who are writing the recommendation letters for you to use another way of evaluating you that generates a both physical chart and also a numeric equivalent of evaluating you on these 6 points or criteria that graduate school deans and directors have told us are important for success in graduate school. Let's focus now on the actual structure of both the GRE Revised General Test and the GRE Subject Tests. You'll find in the case of the subject tests, you would only need to take those if the academic program that you are pursuing, either at the master's or the doctor's level, requires that test. So the vast majority of you will not need to take the subject tests. But for those who do, let's look at their timetable and information. The subject tests are offered only as a paper-based test. They are not delivered on a computer. We do offer 3 different test dates in a calendar year for the paper-based subject tests: September, October, and April. And that allows students, based on when the entrance is for the different graduate degree program they're seeking, to take the test in a timely manner. The cost for each of these 7 subject tests is $150 US. That is true worldwide, no matter where you take the test. Each subject test is 2 hours and 50 minutes in length. Now let's look at the difference with the Revised General Test. The Revised General Test, as I mentioned before, is what most graduate and business schools ask for as an admissions or entrance examination. It is offered either on a computer as a computer-based test or as a paper-based test. The decision is based on whether the country in which you are taking it has enough electrical connectivity for you to be able to take the test as a computer test. We offer test dates as well. In the case of the computerized version of the test, or computer-based testing, you are offered a continuous window, which means that each test center can offer the test at a schedule that works for them. So one test center might say, we offer the test excuse me, every Monday, Thursday, and Friday between the hours of 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. Another test center might choose to say, we offer it every single day. When you walk in and say you want to take it, we immediately sit you down and you begin to take the test. So by continuous testing, that means that it is always available at a designated test center based on the schedule that the test center has created. For the revised general test, we offer it also in paper, and when it is a paper-based test, it's offered in 3 months specifically: October, November, and February. In the case of the revised general test, the price for the test is $185 American. The test length does vary depending on the format in which you're taking it. If you're taking it on the computer, it's 3 hours and 45 minutes. If you're taking it as a paper-based test, it's 3 hours and 30 minutes. There are several advantages to taking the revised general test as the entrance test for your graduate study. It is a test that has been accepted by more than 1,000 business schools and many graduate schools worldwide for admission. So it is a known entity, and it does allow you to take one test and pursue either graduate school or business school within a 5-year time frame and use one set of scores. We offer it in as many as 700 different locations around the world, and it is one of the less expensive graduate entrance exams that you can take. Another benefit of the GRE Revised General Test is that you will be able to utilize our Score Select option. What that means is, if you take the test more than once, you can choose which singular performance on an entire test is your best and send that to a specific university. So the university will no longer see all of the attempts that you made on the test. Instead, they will see just the scores you want to send them. So you have a great deal of control and can have better confidence in the image you're presenting to that business or graduate school. Another added value is that we offer free test preparation materials to all test takers for either test. And you'll find that that's available online. We also have test preparation materials that you can purchase online as well. You would automatically qualify as a GRE Revised General Test taker to participate in the GRE Search Service, which means that with your permission, your information, the major or degree you wish to pursue, your location, your email address is shared with graduate programs around the world that offer that specific program. They then can reach out to you and let you know what's unique or special about their program, any scholarships, grants, or fellowships that they offer, and other things that make their campus a wonderful place to consider. You will also find that you will qualify automatically for 4 free evaluation reports from the ETS Personal Potential Index to be sent to the institutions of your choice. If you choose to participate in the ETS PPI at a later date, rather than taking advantage of the 4 free test evaluation reports, then you'll find that it is just a nominal fee that we charge per report. The computer-based GRE Revised General Test is what we're going to focus on now, and you'll find most students are going to be taking this around the world. The test is comprised of 3 sections. There's analytical writing, which involves actually 2 essays. Each essay is given 30 minutes time for you to write it. The verbal reasoning, quantitative reasoning, or what we refer to as the math section, and then there is the possibility that at the time that you take the test, you may have an unidentified, unscored section that is not factored into your scores, but instead allows us the opportunity to test a question out to make sure that it does work the way we expected and could then use it later in a future test. You may also find that your test might include unidentified or identified research section, And that allows you the opportunity to answer questions that, again, are used just for our research, but do not factor into your score at all. So if you do get either an unscored, unidentified section or an identified research section, it can add a little bit more time to your testing experience. When we talk about the test content, many times people are concerned, well, what is it that I need to know to do well on the GRE Revised General Test? And how is it that it can be applicable to any graduate degree or business degree program I'm seeking? Well, the reason why is because we're looking at your ability to answer critically the information that we're looking for. We involve text-based questions. So that means the information that you need to answer a question is provided in the test in front of you. We use examples of real life scenarios to create the questions and the data interpretation questions that you'll be going through in the quantitative and the verbal reasoning sections. We also try to incorporate different types of questions, different styles, so that your learning abilities can be best reflected on the test. So some students will find it wonderful to be able, in the verbal reasoning section, to highlight a relevant sentence as an answer for a question. Or the fact that some of the questions, while all of them are multiple choice, some may have more than one correct answer because there are 3 different correct answers built into a question. And some students like the fact that in the quantitative section, while they're providing an answer, they are providing it manually by typing in a numeric answer or taking advantage of the calculator that's built into the test. The computer selects the second section of a measure based on the first section. So when you take the verbal reasoning or the quantitative reasoning, as you saw a couple of slides ago, there are 2 sections of each of those within the test. So the first time you take the verbal reasoning, for example, the computer is looking at your performance in that first round of questions. Then based on how many you got right in that first round and the difficulty level of those questions, the second time you get to a verbal reasoning section, the questions will be likely slightly more challenging, and it will also give you the opportunity to improve your overall score. Each time you see a section of the verbal reasoning or the quantitative reasoning, please remember that they are considered equal, and therefore you should do your best on both parts of those questions. The test does involve one rather long break, a 10-minute break. If you're taking it on the computer, then that break comes after the third section of questions that you encounter. And then you'll find that between the other sections of the test, you do get a 1-minute break. Most students find that the 10-minute break is a wonderful opportunity to not only use the restroom, maybe get a drink of water, but also to refresh or restock the scratch paper that we provide to you as part of the testing experience. Some students find it helpful to use that scratch paper maybe to outline the essay response that they're writing, or possibly if they want to use it for the calculations in the quantitative sections. But it is nice to know that the scratch paper is there if you wish to use it. We do collect all scratch paper at the end of the examination and destroy it. You'll find, though, once the 10-minute break is ended, as well as the 1-minute breaks, the testing does resume. So you do need to be back in your seat at that time. If you take a break outside of what is scheduled or built into the test, that would be time lost from your testing experience, and you would not be able to regain that. For the students who are taking the paper-based version of the GRE, they will receive their 10-minute break after the essays as part of the analytical writing section. We talk about the fact that the revised general test was revised to include a more test taker friendly design. And what that means is what we'll talk about next to explain it. The test itself is structured so that you can now, within a section of the test, look at all of the questions, decide which ones you know off the bat and answer those, mark or flag the questions that you don't know so you can come back to them. You'll also have the ability within that section to review your answers and, if necessary, change them. You'll find that you can navigate freely then within that section. We also, as a part of this test taker friendly design, included for those who are taking the test on the computer a built-in calculator that will allow you to do the computations that you wish in the quantitative section. Therefore, it only appears as an on-screen tool during that quantitative section. If you're taking the paper-based version of the GRE Revised General Test, though, you'll find that when you come into the testing center, your testing center staff will provide you with a calculator. Both the online calculator and the one that can be used on the paper-based test are basic four-function calculators so that you can do addition, subtraction, division, and multiplication. This is an example of what that online calculator would look like within the test. I mentioned before that it only appears in the quantitative section, and you'll see in this large purple circle at the top of the screen that there are a number of buttons. The first one says Quit Test. The next one is Exit Section, so that you could leave the section that's currently on the screen. The Review button, again, you would click that if you want to review all the questions and all your answers to make sure that you answered everything, because the way that the test is structured, you get a point for every question that you answer correctly. You do not get a point if you get it wrong, and you do not lose any points if you get it wrong or skip it. So the only way to gain a point or earn a score is to answer a question correctly. So it makes sense to try and answer them all. Hence, by using that review button, you can make sure that you answered all the questions in a section. The next button is the mark button. I mentioned you could use that to come back to a question. And when you review, you'll see there's a check mark that appears next to the question number so that you know you have to go back and provide an answer. The next button is the calculator button, and it brings up what you see here in the bottom section or bottom circle. After that is a button entitled Help, which does give you tips based on the section of the test that you're in. Then there's a back button, so you could go to the previous question, or a next button, so you can go to the upcoming question. This also shows you an example of what it would look like on a question where you could actually manually type in or enter the answer in this box in the center of the screen. You'll find on the online testing, you would be able to click Transfer Display in order to take the numbers that you see in the window on the calculator screen and have them automatically appear and populate the box for the numeric entry. So two ways to answer the question. Type it in yourself or to click the Transfer Display button if you do the calculation on the calculator. All three sections of the revised general test earn their own score. So the verbal reasoning and the quantitative reasoning both are scored from a scale of 130 as the low to 170 as the high with 1-point increments. So you could earn a 151 and I could earn a 152, and then the person next to you could earn a 149, so that you could see the points are only 1 point apart. That is what's meant by 1-point increments. In the case of analytical writing, the two essays are scored, and that score is then combined and calculated so that we come up with a single score for the analytical writing section of the test. And that score ranges from a 0, which is a low, up to a 6 with half-point increments. So again, you could earn a 4.5 on your essay. I could earn a 5. Someone else could earn a 5.5. Again, half-point increments. Now, when we talk about the fact that the way that the test, the verbal reasoning, the quantitative reasoning are structured allows you to get a performance in both sections, we're talking about the fact that, as I said before, the first time you see the verbal or the quantitative reasoning section, the number of questions you got right in that section and the difficulty of those questions helps determine the rigor or the difficulty level of the next time you see that section, and allows you the opportunity to be more challenged and perform and get possibly a higher score. So for each of these 3 sections of the test, a raw score is computed, which is truly just how many you got right. So the raw score is then put on what we refer to a scaled score system through a process of equating. And that allows us to account for minor variations in difficulty among the different test editions that are out and being used worldwide. And the given score scale reflects the same level of performance then, regardless of which section was selected when the test was taken. So it allows us the opportunity to give you a consistent and fair playing field for all of those taking the test. Everyone is treated fairly in an unbiased way in that process of scoring. Each essay is scored by a human reader using a 6-point scale. The reason for that is that the human is able to determine the content and the meaning behind the essay that you wrote to make sure that it does address the point that was asked to be addressed, and that it does flow and make logical sense. We also utilize an E-rater or a scoring engine to look at the basic functions of the essay. Is it a proper sentence? Is it structured grammatically in the appropriate way? So using both factors allows us the opportunity to make sure that the essay is well written and does answer what it was asked to do. At the end of the test, you'll find when you're taking it on computer, you will be able to either indicate you want to report your scores so that you can see them, or cancel your scores so that nothing will be considered and scored. So it would be as if you had not appeared that day. You would have no results on your record. Because that is such a final effort, we ask you to seriously consider whether you do want to take advantage of canceling your scores. The main reason being is because now that Score Select exists, you would have the opportunity as a test taker then to look at your scores and decide if you do want to report all of your scores or retest. And then if your performance is better that second or third time, then share the scores from that event with the universities that you're looking at. So Score Select does give you that option. But let's say you choose to report your scores, which is important. Doing so will allow you on test day to see a rough estimate of what your verbal reasoning and your quantitative reasoning performance tallies up to. So you could see you will see an estimated verbal reasoning and quantitative reasoning score. It also means by clicking report your scores that an official score report will exist. There will be a record of your attempt taking the test that day. So do keep in mind that it is worthwhile to pursue that option to report your scores. Then, after you have seen the official report, determine which set of scores you want to send to a university using Score Select. And let's talk a little bit more about Score Select. When we say you have some options with it, you do. Before the test, you can choose to send all of the scores of all of the attempts that you've taken on the GRE Revised General Test to an institution, or you can send most. So you have two choices there. On after test day, you actually can include the choice of any. You could send your most recent attempt, which is the one you took that day. You could send all if you had some prior existing scores, in addition to the one you just took. Or you could choose to send any, meaning if you took the test 3 times and you don't want to send the results that you just took, but you want to send the results that you took 3 months earlier, you could choose to do that. So you have tremendous flexibility and again, greater confidence in the image that you're presenting to the university with the scores that you choose to share. For those of you who are taking the paper-based revised general test or a GRE subject test, which is also paper-based, you can select your options during test registration only. I mentioned before, after test day you have 3 options. Up till and on test day you have 2 options. So the choice is yours. You'll find again that that gives you tremendous confidence, but it also allows you the opportunity to take the test again if you think you can perform even better. You can take the revised general test every 21 days up to a maximum of 5 times within a continuous 12 months. So if you were to look at all of the year of 2013, you could take the test up to 5 times in that year, once every 21 days. Scores for the revised general test are reported, if you take it on the computer, approximately 10 to 15 days after your test date. So in your online MyGRE account, in your registration profile, you will be able to see your scores 10 to 15 days after taking the test. If you listed any schools prior to the test date that you wanted to receive your scores, any colleges or universities, they would also be sent your scores within that 10 to 15 day time period. If you choose to report your scores after the test, taking advantage possibly of Score Select, then the scores are sent roughly a week to 7 days after we receive your request to send your scores. If you're taking the paper-based GRE Revised General Test or the GRE Subject Test, which is only offered in paper, please know that your scores will take approximately 6 weeks to be reported to you or to a university that you've requested we send the scores to. So it is important that you pay attention to the deadline for the program to which you are applying and therefore count backwards to make sure you're allowing enough time for the scores to be processed and sent out to you and the school 6 weeks after your testing. Now, I mentioned before that GRE provides to you, the test taker, test preparation materials so that you can have the best performance possible each time you take the GRE. We have a mix of free test preparation information that we're going to look at first, and then we have some materials that are available for purchase. Now, when we talk about the PowerPrep 2 software, many students, test takers, like the fact that it is available for both PC and a Mac. So you can take it on your iPhone or iPad, you could take it on your PC at home, you could also take it on your phone. So you'll find that it's convenient and available for you to practice. The PowerPrep 2 includes 2 full-length tests so that you can get the experience of what it's like to take the test. You can take the first one timed if you wish, and the second one untimed, or vice versa. The choice is yours, but it will allow you to, at the end, just like the real test on test day, see an estimated verbal reasoning and an estimated quantitative reasoning score for your performance on the practice test. We offer a paper-based GRE Revised General Test practice book, which allows students to get the experience of what it would be like to take the paper-based test. Our publisher of our GRE prep material is McGraw-Hill. So when you see that book, it is the official guide, and I think you'll find that tremendously helpful. We also offer for you the math review and math conventions. So if as a test taker you know that you might be out of school for a number of years and may not be as familiar with the math conventions and equations that are part of the GRE Revised General Test, you will definitely want to take advantage of the math review and math conventions just to see what those questions are like, see how the problem is worked out, understand what you need to do on test day then when you're taking that part of the test. And again, because the GRE Revised General Test has been available since 2011, we want you to make sure that you are getting the test materials, prep test materials that are marked for the revised general test. This is that official guide that I mentioned that's published by McGraw-Hill. It includes 2 full-length practice tests that are available on a disc, a Power Prep disc, as you see in here. And that Power Prep disc has the same features as the one that's free online, meaning that it's the 2 full-length tests. You can take it in a timed or untimed fashion, and it does report for you an estimated verbal reasoning and quantitative reasoning score at the end of the test. We find, too, that students like the fact that this official guide is available both as a paperback or hardcover book, as well as an electronic or ebook that you could have on your Kindle or iPad or tablet and available to access. I mentioned before that we do realize that students are trying to prepare for tests in ways other than the conventional of sitting at home on a computer. So one such way of accommodating that need or that desire is to make available the official GRE guide as a mobile app. So you'll find, again, as I mentioned before, you can access it through the App Store for iPhones or iPads and download it from there. You'll find that it is a nominal price, as you can see listed here on the screen, and it features authentic test questions and answers and explanations, plus more information that is available in the actual GRE official guide book. Another way that students have found to prepare for the test that has been particularly helpful for some is the Success Starter video series that GRE puts out. It allows you the opportunity for a small charge of $7 each to review videos that are focusing on either specific sections of the test. As you can see here, we now have available the GRE verbal reasoning measure video and a preparation video for the quantitative reasoning measure. And we also have the overview, which does highlight all 3 sections of the test. So for students who know that they want to focus more on an area that is weak for them, perhaps verbal reasoning or the quantitative reasoning, they may choose to focus solely on those videos, but all are available online. Some students want assistance in preparing for writing essays in a timed format. It is a challenge, and we do make available for students the opportunity to purchase the Score It Now online writing practice. It will help you become familiar with what it's like to evaluate or determine your essay topic, write it, and if necessary, proof it within a timed manner, because that's the experience you will have on the test. As I mentioned, for the analytical writing, with each essay you have 30 minutes to generate your response. So it's important to become confident and capable in your ability to do just that. Let's talk a bit about some general test taking tips. These you'll find useful not only in taking the GRE Revised General Test, but also many of them can be applied to the GRE subject tests. Now, in the case of the verbal reasoning and the quantitative reasoning on the Revised General Test, you will find that you're able to take advantage of the test prep materials that we just talked about as early as you choose. Some students want to take advantage of those materials closer to their actual test date, and that's fine. If it helps you to be fresh and current and on top of the material, then certainly do that. Use the Power Prep 2 to become familiar with those different feature buttons at the top of the screen that I showed you in that earlier slide. The Help button, for example, offers you different help tips and suggestions in the verbal reasoning section than what appears in the quantitative section. So you don't want to waste time reading all the help tips during the official test when the time is precious. You want to work as carefully and as quickly as you can going through the test. You want to read the questions thoroughly, make sure you understand them. And remember that since no question carries any greater weight than any other, that they're all equal, they all get 1 point, it doesn't make sense to worry about which one you should answer first. Simply answer the ones you know off the top of your head, and then go on to the ones that are difficult or unfamiliar to you later. That kind of a strategy of going through the questions you know first, answering them, marking the ones you are uncertain of or don't know, and coming back to them all within a section is a very helpful strategy. And it is one you can apply to both the paper-based and the computer-based testing that you go through. Again, as I mentioned, since you get 1 point for every question you get correct, it is best to answer a question rather than not to answer it at all and lose the opportunity to gain a point. Again, you do not lose a point, nor are you penalized in any way for skipping a question or for not getting the answer correct. You only get a point when you get the answer right. Don't spend too much time on that review screen. You'll remember that I mentioned the review button is one of the ones that you have to choose from. It will allow you to look at all of your answers to make sure that you did not skip any that you wanted to go back to. Make sure that you did not leave any unmarked. Yes? So in doing that, just look at it quickly. Do not belabor the point. Don't use the calculator on the quantitative reasoning for every single question just because you have it available. Sometimes you'll find that since it is a quantitative reasoning question and you're looking at a table or a chart, you can reason or figure out logically what the answer is just by looking at the question and the answers provided. You don't have to use the calculator each and every time. You want to be attentive to the time that is allotted. You'll see it will appear on the screen in the upper right-hand corner, and you'll have the ability to click a button to hide time if you don't want to see it constantly displayed. Or you can click it and it will say show time to show you what the time is if you want to know at that moment how much time is left. Don't rush, but do try to get through it methodically. Organize your thoughts and prepare outlines for the 2 essays. Again, you can use the scratch paper to do that, as I mentioned before. You receive the scratch paper before you start the testing, so it is available to you when you get the essay questions, which are the first 2 questions on the GRE Revised General Test, whether you're taking it as a paper test or as a computer-based test. You want to save a few minutes at the end of each section to check for any obvious errors or mistakes you might have made in the essay. For example, did you spell everything correctly? Is it clear what you meant with each word? Or is it something as simple as you left out the punctuation, so we can't tell where the sentence truly ends? You want to make sure to look at all of those features because that will factor into your score on your essays. Taking the revised general test does give you added value, as we mentioned before. But let's just review and highlight some of those values. The first being is that you have the opportunity, as a person who is registered for the revised general test, to take advantage of having the folks who are writing the recommendation letters on your behalf to the graduate program to also provide an actual chart and quantified evaluation of your skills that will help you progress and succeed at graduate school or business school. That is our ETS, Personal Potential Index, or ETS PPI. I mentioned you will have the ability to send 4 of those evaluation reports provided to different institutions, 4 institutions that you're looking at, or 4 programs. You will also find that you have the opportunity to be listed as a participant for free in the GRE search service, so that again, graduate and business schools that are looking for students who have your certain abilities, interests, and academic performance would be able to connect with you via internet or via mail to tell you about their programs, to make you aware of some greater options that you have. Some general resources that I think are very important for you to keep in mind as our presentation and our time together ends is to look at the student created or test taker created website we have, www.takethegre.com. You'll find that it has a great deal more information than we discussed here today, and also has links to the test prep, as you can see right below it, or the ability to register for the test. So those are 3 very important links and websites to go to. You'll also find that you can get some information from peers or fellow test takers by connecting to them through the GRE Revised General Test page on Facebook. And for those of you students who find that that's particularly helpful, you will also know that we are working to make it available readily. I notice I have at least one question already coming in. Certainly feel free to ask more. I will answer them in just a minute. Let me just point out to you that you can sign up for more news about the test. So if you're looking to test, maybe not this coming month, but rather next year in 2014, you'll find signing up will allow us to make you aware of different new opportunities and resources that might be advantageous for you. Now let's go to some of those questions that have come in. So here's the first one. So the shortest tip and best tip is to know to prepare for GRE in a short amount of time is, which is a very common question we're asked. If you have just a little bit of time to prepare, what should you focus on? Well, certainly most people by now realize that they have certain strengths. For example, for me, my strength is in the verbal or the writing area. So I know that I will likely perform best in those areas of the GRE Revised General Test. I know math is harder for me, more of a challenge. So I know I would want to take advantage of the math review and the math conventions questions, so that way I could build those skills, refresh my memory. It might also be that I've been out of school for a number of years. So the kind of math that I do on a regular basis is not what is in this test. So looking at that would let me work on those areas. If it is a case where you know that you really have just the shortest amount of time, take advantage of the Power Prep 2. First, because you can do the first test of the two tests in the Power Prep 2, you can take the first one untimed. Play with the buttons at the top. See what each of them does when you click on it. Read all of the help options in the verbal section, in the quantitative section. Make sure you understand how the test operates. That then gives you also a baseline. By taking that test, you can see where your strengths and weaknesses are. Then you can work efficiently on those weaknesses to try and bolster them. Then use that second test in the Power Prep 2 to go ahead and take it full time, in real time, and see how much you've improved from the first time you attempted it. So that would be my suggestion if you have just a little bit of time to prepare. Now I have another question coming in. Okay, what should I expect if I take the paper-based test? Well, the paper-based test, as I mentioned, for the revised general test is offered in regions where computer-based testing is just not available. The paper-based GRE revised general test, since it's already in a book form, allows you the opportunity to, as you would with any other paper test, turn the pages to get through a section. You have the ability to leaf back and look at previous questions in the section, so you do have that same feature. You'll have most of the new question types that are available on the computer-based test. The only type that is unavailable on paper is the highlight and answer within a reading passage. As you can imagine, since we don't score your actual test booklet, the questions, it doesn't make sense to have you highlight in the test book. So your question type, where you can highlight in the passage, is only on the computer-based test. When you take the paper-based test of the revised general test, you'll also find that you are given a calculator, as I mentioned before, so that you can use it at will in the quantitative section. It's a calculator that we collect at the end, or you are more than welcome to take with you. Since it has no memory, it's just a basic calculator. So those are really the differences between the two. Now I have one more question here. Okay. How long do I need to prepare? Which we've covered. What books can I refer to? Okay. You can refer to the McGraw-Hill edition or published edition of the official GRE guide. You'll find that that's available not only through our services online, but certainly in many bookstores around the world. And as I mentioned, since it's also an ebook or an electronic book, it is a downloadable product. So you can load it onto your tablet or your computer at home if you so wish. I have somebody asking, oh, is there an age limit to taking the GRE? Now that's a good question. No. The purpose of the GRE Revised General Test or the subject tests is to be used for admission for graduate study. And you can pursue graduate degrees at any time in your life once you've obtained your undergraduate. So no, there's no age limit at all. And you'll find that whether you need to take it, though, is determined by the graduate program that you're looking at. So certainly check with them first to make sure it is a required test. Okay, one more question asking how can I find which business schools accept the GRE Revised General Test? You can actually find that information on the GRE website. You can find it at both the takethegre.com website or at the www.ets.org/GRE website. I hope this information has been helpful to you. I want to wish you the best of luck and success on not only your pursuit of graduate study, but on a successful completion of the GRE Revised General Test and/or the GRE Subject Test. Thank you.